Hello and welcome back, my Royal Rogues. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue, and tonight we have the shocking revelations from J.R. Muringer, Harry's ghostwriter for his book Spare, that confirms that Gingerbread is just a bellend. I know, that is something that we already knew thanks to Mike Tyndall. But this is like having several witnesses and confirmations about a fact that, well, we could have even seen Harry's body language all this time. From the Daily Mail and straight from the pen of Richard Eden, I was exasperated. Prince Harry's ghostwriter J.R. Muringer tells of tensions between them while working on Spare and reveals their relationship became so fraught that he shouted at the Royal in Row at 2 a.m. Now, if you have been following me for a while, we have had this conversation in other occasions. The timing of things is important, and in this case, it's obvious that Muringer waited until after the coronation to release this statement. Ultimately, this is about Harry's book, and from a marketing perspective, it would not be surprising that Penguin Random House is trying to piggyback on the Ginger Winger's very short appearance at the coronation to add a little drama to boost some extra sales. Which makes me think about what kind of people at this point, since Harry's book release on January, will still be interested in buying that. Muringer says, I was exasperated with Prince Harry. My head was pounding, my jaw was clenched, and I was starting to raise my voice. And yet some part of me was still able to step outside the situation and think, this is so weird. I'm shouting at Prince Harry. Then, as Harry started going back at me, and his cheeks flushed and his eyes narrowed, a more present thought occurred. Whoa, it could all end right here. Now, what you're going to read next is a great clue to reveal what was the real reason of these statements at this specific moment in time. And I'm not going to spoil the reason yet. Let's read it so see if you can come up with that yourself. The incident last summer is recalled in a new article that Muringer has written for the New Yorker magazine. He explains that the dispute came as this discussed an incident in which the Duke of Sussex's was captured by pretend terrorists during military exercises. Harry's captors screamed insults at him, culminating in a vile dig at Princess Diana. One of the participants later apologized to him. Now, I didn't remember this part of Spare, but yes, it's in chapter 45. And even in this extreme situation, even in these circumstances of pretend capture, Harry found a way to mention his stature. I was terrifyingly cold. I'd never been so cold, far worse than the North Pole. With the cold came numbness, drowsiness. I snapped to attention when the door burst open and our captors barged in. They took off our blindfolds. I was right. Phil was there, also the other guy. We were ordered to strip. They pointed at our bodies, our flaccid cocks. They went on and on about how small. I wanted to say, you don't know the half of what's wrong with this appendage. Man, oh God, oh man, this chap needs help. What an obsession. I'm starting to believe that Wonker is a compliment to this guy. Now here comes the worst part. Harry always wanted to end this scene with a thing he said to his captors, a comeback that struck me as unnecessary and somewhat inane. Muringer discloses. For months I'd been crossing out the comeback, and for months Harry had been pleading for it to go back in. Now he wasn't pleading, he was insisting, and it was 2 a.m. and I was starting to lose it. Although this wasn't the first time that Harry and I had argued, it felt different. It felt as if we were hurtling towards some kind of decisive rupture, in part because Harry was no longer saying anything. He was just glaring into the camera. You know that it would have been a really uncomfortable moment, but not because Harry's silence added gravitas, no. But because you know that when Harry stared at the camera, it was not being serious, but that creepy deer in headlights stare he's got sometimes. It's like his brain is in defrag mode or something. Or perhaps he's having flashbacks of the life he had before 2016. So you might have noticed already that all this stuff of his ghostwriter speaking now is to add some character to Harry. Like he actually did something with the book, having these heated discussions and arguments. Again, the timing is perfect since he was completely red-feathered at the coronation. He was neutralized by the power of the plume. They had to release the scraps of whatever memory or experience they still have left. But wait, there's more. Finally, he exhaled and calmly explained that all his life people had belittled his intellectual capabilities, and this flash of cleverness proved that, even after being kicked and punched and deprived of sleep and food, he had his wits about him. Okay, let me get this straight. We just read the words flash of cleverness, not to mention wits. Good lord, we're witnessing a desperate attempt to the exact opposite of character assassination. Let's say character building, perhaps? That is, if the building is from putty, which is a good analogy for Harry's attention span. But the last words of the article reveal Harry's true character. After finally accepting the writer's explanation, he shot me a mischievous grin. I really enjoy getting you worked up like that. That sounds a bit sadistic and cruel, and it goes very well with an inferiority complex. Harry needs to elicit this kind of reactions in people because that's the only way he has to not feel completely powerless. In this case, they reveal the story behind Moringer's screams just to make Harry look good after the disastrous appearance at the coronation. But how many times do you think this kind of frictions would have happened with a nanny or any other worker at Monte Shit Show? Suddenly, all those bullying allegations make sense not only for Meghan. Harry wanted to look good and he ended up exposing himself. And that is the reason he is more and more bitter with William as time passes by. Harry wants some kind of reaction from him. First the Oprah interview, then he digs at his own grandmother in the horror-mentary, the stuff in his book. But you think about it, Harry has been escalating those attacks as months go by. At the same time, not William or Catherine have acknowledged any of the stuff in any way. They never look at Harry at the coronation, and that's the best treatment in these cases. Because toxic personalities like Harry attack both overtly and covertly, desperate to elicit a reaction in you. When you finally acknowledge their existence, they won. And if you lose your temper with them, they won twice. That's what they are looking for. Again, inferiority complex, feeling powerless, the need for some kind of reaction. What William has done all this time is how you starve a narcissist, no matter what kind of narcissist, of what they desperately crave, what is called the supply, or what makes them get going. So it's not surprising that Harry, Meghan, and their discount Barbican shield have reached a new low by attacking the children of the Prince and Princess of Wales. Meghan Markle's biographer Omid Scobie claims George, Charlotte, and Louis were to blame for Kate and William being late to the coronation. Yes, this is absolutely despicable, but I'm going to be my best self and just remind these people that karma always arrives. Always. And my rogues, watch out for this kind of attacks, because they are expecting that you retaliate with some mean comment about Meghan and Harry's kids. That's what they want. Remember how Methane claimed that the mainstream media had called them the N-word. And I'm not here to defend the mainstream media by any means, but that simply didn't happen. Since there are no actual attacks, they had to make them up. Once it was proven that the attacks never happened, they need to lure and bait you into saying something mean about Archie and Lilibet so they can use it for their own means. And just to make sure that this is the real deal and not just a crazy headline from the Daily Fail, here's the direct quote. However, the expert claims a royal source told him that Prince William and Kate Middleton's children were to blame for the slight hold-up on the morning of the coronation. You tell me. I have no further words for this. But since it seems that Discount Barbican is the only shield that's still on their payroll, we got the answer to the question that exactly 0 people had asked. Meghan Markle's friend explains why Duchess didn't attend coronation. Hey, wait a minute. Friend? That is interesting, because we already know what happens to Meghan's friends. Every single one of them. So maybe this is an omen? Again, checking out the actual content, Meghan Markle did not attend King Charles' coronation because she didn't feel comfortable or welcome enough, according to a friend. So for a second, I thought that I was mistaken and that Scobie had referenced a friend of Meghan, but no, the mirror is clear. Speaking earlier this month, Meghan's friend, Omid Scobie, claimed the royal family were relieved she had opted not to join Harry at the service. And maybe you want me to analyze those absolutely staged photos of Meghan hiking with Marcus Anderson. By the way, with no sight of Archie or Lilibet around, but that will have to wait until tomorrow's episode. Just make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss it. My beautiful royal rogues, I love you all. Remember to like this video and the two most important words, much love and bliss.